let's talk about this baffling statistic that it still gets me. I've been in franchising over 20 years now, and there's still 4,000 franchisors in business. 400 start franchising, about 400 leave annually, give or take. Why do you think that is? Why do you think so many people don't make it in franchising?
Well, I think if we all knew the answer to that, we'd all have that. We'd be able to bottle that and sell it, right? But I think there's different reasons for different cases. But I think part of the reason why I chose not to get into franchising was a piece of advice I got from a good friend of mine. He was been in business for a long time. I sat down with him and he asked me the question, what's the reason why you're getting into franchise? Is it to really expand your brand? Is it to help people be successful in the business? Is it to make money? What is the real reason? And if the reason is it's just to make money, there's lots of ways you can make money that are probably easier than franchising. But I mean, you can do that, but it takes a long-term commitment to stick with that and do it. I think the biggest answer to your question, though, is there's a lot of complexity, a lot of different issues that come in. There's so many legal complexities to the franchising space as well. Getting your FDD done, understanding most people have never done an FDD before. It's a very complicated document to get it registered in all the different registration states across the country. That takes time. And some people, they end up spending more money on legal fees before they even jump in their business, for they didn't have to hire more people, and they don't understand all the complexity behind that. So it does require a lot of resource to be able to and do this well, and have the right people that you can hire and to have around you to help you grow your business too. Like anything, though, I think you have to be really good at sales. And in any business, if you don't have sales, you don't have much of a business very long.
Right.
Sales is the lifeblood of a business, right? If the blood stops flowing, the business stops growing, right? So you gotta know how to sell a franchise. So I think that's a key component. A lot of franchisors outsource that again, and there's a lot of great benefits for that. You don't have to worry about hiring a team. But again, they can bring people on too fast. It may not be the right people for you to be in the franchise, and they don't have enough people to support them. Again, there's a lot of reasons why that is. But I think the key thing is you have to think for yourself, what is my motivation for doing this? What do I really want to get out of this? And I think, again, your book, you give a lot of great insight onto how you made the decision to do I-9 Sports and kind of grow that business and some of the struggles you have, because it's not an easy road to be a franchisor, not an easy road to be a franchisee either. It takes a lot of commitment, a lot of hard work, and a lot of learning and making mistakes and growing from those mistakes. Any business you're going to start, you're going to make a lot of mistakes. It's just better to make them as quick as you can, learn from them, and move on. But you are going to make mistakes. That's just a part of life. And learning how to adapt from those or bounce back from those mistakes is critical. Some people just don't adapt back very well from mistakes. They have something happen and they let those outside forces influence and they just give up. Like what happened with you. We talk about that chapter where you had all those different things happening at the same time.
Right.
It would have been easy probably for you just to throw in the towel and say, okay, I'm done. I've had enough of this. But you stuck with it and you persisted. And I think that's a really inspiring part of your book is what the persistence it takes to be a successful franchisor is really all found within the chapters and the pages of your book. It's really, really an impressive accomplishment you've done there with that book.
Well, thank you, James. I agree with you with the part of the ability or inability to execute is one of the primary reasons why I see so many of these emerging founders they fizzle out because they haven't made that commitment. They have one foot in their company-owned locations and they have the other foot in franchising, and they see how much money they're making with their, say, company-owned locations and like, gosh, this franchising thing is so hard to do. And when they kind of doing both things, it's easy to give up on franchising when you start facing some of those challenges. In my case, I burned the boats. I had to take the island because I sold I sold my company-owned location to fund my franchise effort. I had literally no choice but to make it. Now, I'm not suggesting people should sell their company-owned location to franchise. In fact, I think the exact opposite. I think that it's great to have a company-owned location that's cash flowing so you don't have the pressure of selling franchises to keep the lights on. But it's all about execution, right? Selling franchises, supporting franchise owners. But when you run into those tough times, you just keep moving ahead because that's life, right? That's business. It's going to be difficult.
Well, I think it goes back to the point we made earlier about the E-Myth, right? A lot of people get into business, they're technicians, they're really good at operating the business, but they don't have the skill set for the vision and the managerial skills to be successful doing this. Franchising or being a franchisor requires a lot of skills for vision, a lot of skills for persistence, a lot of skills for managing an operation that you may or may not have developed yet when you're just with a technician of your business. You know how to run the business itself, and you have great systems for that. When you think about the systems you have in your business itself, there's a lot of systems you may not have, or they're not very adequate for what you do, especially as you grow quickly. And that's an
Yeah.
important part, I think, too, is the system is a secret behind any business. You have to have good systems in place. And if you rely on the systems of your one business, they don't always translate well over to another business, especially a completely different concept like franchising or being a franchisor.
Yeah, no, I agree with you totally. Let's talk about the types of people that get into franchises. What do you think is the traits of somebody that is better suited to becoming a franchisee of an emerging brand versus somebody that would become a franchisee of a more mature?
Well, it's a great question. There's a Zoracle profile you can look at that kind of tells you your skill set and what you do. One of the things that identifies in there is how you make decisions. And if you like to do things the way that like an entrepreneur, a plug and play, or a brand new person, or if you like to have someone who's like more of an existing business model that's something really well established, and so usually the best people, if they're more of an entrepreneur, partner, plug and play, that's usually the best person to be for an emerging brand. If they want to have something that's more established, they should be looking for the higher end of that side of the spectrum that have the systems and process in place, because an emerging brand's got to kind of figure out some of those systems along the way, because not all of them are put together. And as you know, you have to kind of establish some of that together. So hiring the right person who can help you put systems in place, help you evaluate that, get better at things, that's going to be a really important person. So it's partly the franchisor's responsibility to identify who those people are, but also I think from a franchisee's perspective, understand who that person is too. One of the things I'll just mention about that, Gino Wickman wrote a great book called The Entrepreneurial Leap. And in that book, he identifies the skills that it takes to be successful as a business owner. It's a very short book, but it's a fantastic book because it shows you what it takes to be a business owner. And if you can't take that little assessment he has in the middle of the book and say, okay, I'm a business owner, then probably being a franchisee may or may not be the right answer for you. But it does to identify the skill set it takes to be a business owner. It's a different skill set to be an entrepreneur. If you think about it, most people are in college are taught how to be taught how to be employees. They're not taught how to be entrepreneurs.
Sure.
And so you learn all these different skills, how to work for somebody else, but you aren't really taught how to be an entrepreneur, how to be a business owner. That's a different skill set. Robert Kiyosaki talks about a lot of this in his book, The Cashflow Quadrant. There are a lot of people who have the entrepreneurial mindset, but they don't have a business owner mindset or a big business owner mindset or an investor mindset. It's a completely different set of skills for all four different quadrants in what he calls the Cashflow Quadrant. I think that's a key idea you can think about too, is that do I have the right skill set? Am I just moving from one category to the next, where a lot of people who get into a business for themselves, especially a franchisee, they actually buy themselves a job as opposed to actually creating a business that can actually hire other people to help them run that business. And that's may or may not be the right person of skill set for you, but you have to understand what your role in the business is going to be, how you're going to train people, how you're going to help them become the best at it. Because if you have a hard time training people, you have a hard time actually help inspiring people. You're not going to have that much retention with a business. I had an interview about a week ago with a franchisee that's she's in New York, actually. She's and she has she told me she has 100% retention ratio with all of her employees over a 9.5-year span. That's pretty impressive. Most franchisors or franchisees never have anything close to that. They're lucky if they have 50% retention. So I asked her what her secret was, and she said, I take care of my people. And she said, she runs a business in the like a made right franchise, actually, with premium service brands. But one thing she said to me was, she said she actually will call her. She asked after the job is done, she calls and said, "You get a tip." And if they did get a tip, she calls the client and says, "Hey, would you like to? How'd it go? They do a good job." They said, "Great job." So would you like to leave them a tip? And she always works to get the tip, and she gives 100% of that tip to her employees. And so as a result, they know that she has their back. She's there to help them, and they don't want to go anyplace else because they've never had that experience anyplace else, any place they've ever worked before. And I think that's so important. The reason why she has 100% retention ratio, which is crazy in an industry like that, is because she takes care of her employees and her people. And that's true of any business. You got to take care of people that work for you and not just see them as a tool to help you get more money yourself, but how to help them be successful in their business and their life, what they want to do. And I think that's such a refreshing perspective from a franchisee to say, I want to help my employees succeed. I want to help. And I think everybody has that perspective. But when push comes to shove and things get hard, you got to pay your bills. Sometimes you're not always thinking about that as privilege you should be. And that's a key consideration.
Thank you for tuning into the Emerging Franchise Brands podcast. For additional insights, guest applications, and to stay connected, visit us at efbpodcast.com. The Emerging Franchise Brands podcast is for entertainment purposes only, and the views expressed do not necessarily represent those of Emerging Franchise Brands, its host Frank Fiume, or Emerging Franchise Group, LLC. Any discussed franchise or investment opportunity requires thorough investigation, obtaining proper disclosure documents, and expert consultation before making any investment decisions. The podcast and its hosts do not offer professional advice or endorsements, and they hold no responsibility for actions, representations, accuracy, or consequential damages related to the podcast content.